everybody. For those of you new to the channel, I'm Teresa Perrin, and I want to discuss MMAT with you tonight because I believe that that is the real short squeeze and that it was always intended to be that way. Now, I am going to discuss MMTLP in a separate video, and that's probably going to come out tomorrow. However, I may do a short one tonight. But there's a lot to be processed, and I've been researching for hours. In fact, I didn't even realize it's now 9:30 at night, and I'm finally sitting down to make this because that's how long I've been digging since, well, during market and since after market closed. You know, there's a lot to take in, and I'm not quite sure what's going on with that, but I do have some thoughts, and some of them are not so good. Anyways, that being said, this video is going to focus on MMAT. So please remember that nothing I say is financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. Always do your own DD. Guys, if you could smash that like button for me, I would greatly appreciate it as it helps with the algorithms. Let's take a look at MMAT and where it currently stands, because I do believe that today created a huge buying. Okay, so if you pull out the yearly chart, we actually formed a beautiful, huge cup, and today we got that handle, guys. Technically, this is very, very bullish when you get a cup and handle pattern, and I do expect that we are going to move up and break out past the neck at 234, or if you go back to earlier levels, probably somewhere around 217, but ultimately the goal would be to break up at the highest point of 234. So I do believe that that is what's coming and in store for us, which is why I'm bringing it to your attention. Plus, it is heavily shorted, and I'm sure today made it much worse. Currently, the free float is standing at 267 million shares. The 52-week high is $3.52. The 52-week low is 63 cents. The average volume is 12.49 million shares. And today, 39.87 million shares were traded. So that's almost 4 times the normal volume, guys. And unfortunately, it ended the day at $1.42, then dipped a few cents lower in after hours down to $1.37. Now, guys, for a stock to sell off total 25% in one day is huge. And I think that we can all concur that this had nothing to do with MMAT selling off this or something that happened within the company creating it. It had to do with MMTLP and the fact that FINRA ceased trading and shareholders got nervous and they sold off their MMAT as well. Now, whatever the case may be, it is what it is. And, you know, certainly I can understand that, as I think any reasonable person would expect that. But I do believe that it was also heavily shorted at the same time. And, you know, clearly the shorts took advantage of that opportunity to scare people. What came first? I don't know, guys. It could have been a combination. It could have been heavily shorted to scare people and create more selling. And then every opportunity they got for shares being returned, they just continued to short heavily. And there's reason to suggest that that was the case. If you follow me on Twitter, when I showed the stocks, you know, how many shares were left to short, which I will go over in this video as well. But it was very obvious that it was the case of what I just stated. So if you look at the net inflow versus the net outflow, it is obvious here that on all levels, there was far more people selling than buying, as the inflow was 15.99 and the outflow was 22.72, creating a negative or an outflow of 7.13, which, guys, that's clearly heavily sold, whether it's from people shorting and selling that way or a combination like we just discussed. I think it was certainly a combination, probably brought on by that short attack. Now, as far as analysts and ranking MMAT, 3 of them have rated it, and it's given a buy. 1 gives it a strong buy, and 2 give it a buy. That's pretty darn good, guys. You don't see that every day, especially because there's not a lot of analysts that have even rated this. On the low end, they're saying it's valued at $2. On the high end, $3.50. Currently, it sits at $1.42. So even if it got to that volume of that average of $2.50, that would be over $1 to the upside. And guys, I believe if this squeezes, it will go much higher. And if you look at the January 20th options chain, it is stacked. And I think that there's a lot of open interest on that $10 call option. So you have to wonder what people are thinking, because you don't see that when a stock is trading under $2. Who the heck is buying a $10 call option? I don't know, guys. Kind of crazy if you ask me, but it's out there. So somebody clearly thinks that something's about to happen in this stock. Now, there was an interesting article that I read before I get into what Fintel's showing us. And it was, I found it on, oh God, not Weeble. I don't know. I can't even think of the name of that app. Moomoo. I found it on Moomoo. And it says, Metamaterials is a serious revenue grower. Now, this is the middle of the article, which was by David Modell. He says, Metamaterials increased its revenue 329% year over year in 2022's third quarter. Moreover, during the 9 months ending September 30th, 2022, Metamaterials' total revenue expanded 388% compared to the comparable period of 2021. So the 9 months prior in 2021. That's a huge growth, guys, 388%. Metamaterials is a premier player in the high conviction functional materials industry. These materials have applications in consumer electronics, 5G communications, health and wellness, aerospace, automotive, and clean energy. Amazingly, Metamaterials possesses 472 active utility and design patent documents and 292 issued patents. Guys, that's a lot of patents. You never know where the company's functional materials might be applied next. MRIs, document authentication, or maybe even light capture for solar panels. Wherever functional materials can be used, don't be surprised to see metamaterials in the mix. Okay, he says, put $100 on the chopping block with MMAT stock. There's no denying that it's risky to invest in a recently controversial company like Metamaterials. Don't miss an opportunity to get exposure to the functional material niche market, however. Now is the time to focus on a business with broad application and astounding revenue growth. If you're willing to accept the risk involved, feel free to wager $100 on MMAT stock. The most you can lose is a C note, and you could end up winning big time as a buy-the-dip investor of Metamaterials. Okay, so it says, oh, this is just something that I had on FINRA about MTLP, but I'm not going to get into that in this video. All right, so the short interest is currently sitting at 14.78%. And I could have sworn I checked this earlier today, and it was sitting around 12%, guys. So it increased today quite significantly with 1.85 days to cover. And currently, there are still no shares left to borrow. And guys, I've been looking at this all day long. And this is what I mean by I think that they borrowed up all the shares that they could. There was none, right? So they probably have been saving them. They dumped on us because, as you can see, if you go back to 12.8 yesterday, all day long, it was decreasing. They didn't return them at the end of the day either, because today we start the day with, or we ended the day yesterday with no shares to borrow. And then today, suddenly there were 80,000 shares that popped up. Now, it was zero first when I looked at it today. These times are somehow really off, okay, because I don't know where they come from. But then 80,000 popped up. So I'm thinking it happened after the sell-off. Then these 80,000 shares became available because they short attacked, sold, borrowed these ones from people selling and shorted it down some more. How at the end of the day they were able to suppress that price the way they did, and I saw it try to break out. I even tweeted it that it looked like it was starting to break out, but they didn't let it, guys. So you could see the actual bounce and the pullback, and it happened in another stock at a similar time, and I found it very odd. But it wanted to break to the upside, but I think a lot of it too had to do with there was a huge amount of options on the table for today as well. So this was a perfect opportunity for them to not even allow those 150 calls to go into the money. Pretty sad, but it is what it is. Okay, so if you look at the cost to borrow too, this is something else. It doubled from yesterday. Well, almost double, not quite. Yesterday, the cost to borrow was 135.84%, and today it's up to 229.02%. That's significant, guys, because people are paying a lot of money to hold this stock down. And the short volume ratio today, well, clearly they didn't need to use the dark pool as people were selling like mad. So you see that it's been in the 50s literally for the past 2 weeks, every single day, with the high being a 59.33, but every day at least 50%, right? Which is how they hold the price down, guys, by using the dark pool for shorting. And then the short volume ratio today was only 34.84% because clearly they were shorting on the open market. They didn't need to use the dark pool to do this. I mean, you know, they did some, but we had all that selling and everything else. Plus, there were no more shares for them to borrow. So that's another reason why that number goes down, guys. All right. So failure to delivers are not even any kind of considerability at this point in time. However, things may change in the next 2 weeks. We shall see as this updates. Anyways, guys, that's what I got for you on MMAT. I would keep a close eye on it because I seriously think it's a huge buy the dip opportunity. And I think you're going to see that in the upcoming month, MMAT is just going to start to explode. Technically, it looks great. I know a lot of people are angry about the whole MMTLP scenario. And like I said, I am going to plan to discuss it because I'm just disgusted with the amount of manipulation that goes on in this market. I just am tired and not sure how I want to phrase my wording at this time. So there is something I want to bring to people's attention about TD Ameritrade. So I may do that video tonight, but I want to sleep on it, I think. Get up, go to my water aerobics class, you know, relieve some stress, and then be able to talk about it with an open mind. So stay tuned for that this weekend. Thank you so much for watching. And if you haven't already, consider subscribing to the channel. I do put out a daily morning watch list, and we've had some crazy runners lately, guys. So anyways, it's free. If you subscribe, you'll get a notification when it's out. Thank you so much.